In the new Republic of Gilead, handmaids are forced to bear children for the powerful commanders and their barren wives. Among them is June, who is assigned to Commander Fred Waterford and his wife, Serena. While Serena is spiteful of her handmaid for not giving her a child, Fred befriends June. This allows the handmaid to gain favors with her commander, hoping that this will lead to her reuniting with her daughter. Despite women being forbidden to read and write, the commander keeps inviting June to play Scrabble. After several game nights, the woman learns that Fred likes when she flirts. After a game, Fred gives June a fashion magazine, surprising her as those were supposed to be destroyed. She reminds him that she's not allowed to read, but he insists that it's okay with him. With that, June gingerly flips through the pages, recalling her days before Gilead. One day, her friend, Moira, complained about how June's social media profile picture was attracting weirdos. To prove this, she approached a stranger, who happened to be June's future husband, Luke. Moira insisted on letting Luke choose June's profile photo, unaware that this was the spark of their relationship. The following day, at present, June has breakfast when the commander's driver, Nick, walks in. The two share a smile as they have formed a secret friendship, and the handmaid knows that the man is actually interested in her. Afterward, June helps Serena in tending their garden. During this, the handmaid worries that the woman found out about something to punish her for, so she wonders about killing Serena. Instead, the wife mentions how June hasn't gotten pregnant despite her time with them. This would have her sent to the colonies, where she'll be forced to clean nuclear waste. Quietly, Serena wonders if her husband is sterile, shocking June as the idea of men being infertile is prohibited. Still, Serena is desperate to have a child, so she plots to get her handmaid pregnant with another man. She insists that it has to be someone they trust, so Serena suggests Nick, who's already agreed. This leaves June speechless. Later, June goes to the store and overhears another handmaid, Janine, talking about her daughter that she gave birth to for the Putnams. Another handmaid, Alma, warns her not to talk about such things as it could get her into trouble. To June's surprise, her friend and fellow handmaid, Emily, has returned. Emily disappeared after being charged for having a relationship with her commander's Martha, the name used for household workers. June cautiously approaches her, learning that she's been reassigned to a new commander. Sensing that she doesn't want to ask about what happened, June asks Emily about what she said before disappearing. Emily hinted that amongst the Waterford household is an Eye, a militant group for Gilead. However, Emily claims not to know anything anymore because she's been removed from the secret rebel group called Mayday after she was arrested. Before she can say further, June's assigned companion, Offglen, takes her away. While walking home, Offglen confronts June for risking their position by talking to Emily. Unlike the others, Offglen is loyal to Gilead, as her life before was horrible. Now she has a safe home and people who tend to her as long as she does her duty, so she wants to keep it that way. Later, Serena leads June to Nick's apartment in front of the Waterford's house. On their way, June is nervous about getting arrested for their plan. At the same time, she's worried that the act was like cheating on her husband. She recalls when she and Luke had lunch, even though June knew he was married. They excused that what they were doing was innocent since it was just lunch in broad daylight. As they joked about sneaking out for something more daring, they realized they both wanted more. At present, June and Serena arrive at Nick's apartment. With limited time, the wife asks them to proceed, so June sits on Nick's bed with a heavy heart. As this happens, she thinks of when she and Luke rented a room where they took their relationship to the next level. While her time with Luke was intimate, June and Nick barely look at each other as they perform their task. Soon, Nick finishes and Serena leads June back to the house. She asks how June feels, and the emotional handmaid snaps at her that it hasn't been long since the act. Despite her rude remark, Serena simply prays over her womb and advises her to rest. Meanwhile, Emily passively plays with the dog outside her new commander's home as she worries about her ceremony tonight, where she'd have to mate with her commander. To her surprise, the wife, Grace, hints that she's not feeling well, so they should skip the ceremony. Knowing that the woman is doing this for her, Emily reminds her that she can't use the excuse every month. Grace is aware and simply touches her handmaid's shoulder encouragingly before leaving. That evening, June's ceremony proceeds. However, while Serena isn't looking, June notices that Fred is looking down at her, unlike before when he usually averts his eyes. This scares her, more so when he touches her. Later that night, June confronts Fred about this since his wife could have had her arrested if she had noticed. Fred apologizes but tries to spend more time with her, even offering another magazine to read. Begrudgingly, June sits as he flips through the pages, commenting how the magazine is full of articles implying that women are never enough. June argues that they had choices, and Fred counters that now they have respect and protection to fulfill their biological destinies, children. Horrified, June argues that love is something they also want, but Fred believes it's not real. He reminds her about Emily, who had unnatural desires like love. Despite that, they let her live because they respected her. Instead, they had a doctor take care of her physical desires. Realizing what this means, June gets up to leave. Before she does, Fred adds that they're making their world better, though it also means making it worse for a few. As she walks out, June understands that despite his small kindness to her, Fred is still the evil man who helped create the oppressive Gilead. Feeling sick, she throws up in the kitchen, where Nick finds her. June accuses him of spying on her, asking if he's an eye. Nick changes the topic, defending that he couldn't say no to Serena earlier, so he apologizes for what he did. June ignores this and continues asking if he's an eye. Finally, Nick says yes. As her plot to use the men's affections for her crumbles, June tearfully returns to her room. She recalls asking Luke to leave his wife for her, which he immediately agreed to since he was in love with June. With that, June also confessed her love for him. One day, June sees Emily in the market and offers her sympathy for what happened. Still driven to bring Gilead down, Emily encourages her friend to help Mayday. Before she can tell June how to contact them, Offglen pulls her away. As Emily scans the area, she notices the wives being dropped off. Desperate to break free, she hijacks one of the cars and drives around. As the guards try to stop her, her fellow handmaids enjoy the show, recalling their times of freedom. Soon, however, Emily is cornered, leading her to run over and kill a man. This leads to her finally getting arrested as June watches in horror. When June returns to the house, Serena checks in on her, having heard the news about the market. As the wife gives passive sympathy for the handmaids, June eyes the shears behind Serena, though she doesn't do anything. Alone, June wonders about Emily, believing that despite what Gilead did to her, there were things that they couldn't remove. Inspired by her friend's actions, June sneaks into Nick's apartment, and without even a word to each other, they spend the night together. June thinks of their passionate moment the next day, though she knows it can't happen again. The handmaids are tasked to clean the wall by the river, where Gilead traitors are usually punished and displayed. Aunt Lydia, who trained the women, watches over them. Alma shares that it's being cleaned since diplomats are arriving. She even warns June that they'll be at the Waterford's house tonight, having heard it from her commander. That night, June is summoned to Serena's room but doesn't find the woman there yet. While waiting, June looks down at the bed where she's forced to do the ceremony every month. Suddenly, Serena arrives and announces that a trade delegation from Mexico is joining them tonight, so they must make a good impression. Their visitors will have questions about their lifestyle, and Serena hints that June should speak wisely. The handmaid promises to do so. Afterward, Serena heads downstairs, and as she spots her husband, she recalls the early moments of their marriage. Once, they prayed for a child before getting intimate. Back then, Fred was passionate about their marriage, but as she approaches him now, he barely acknowledges her compliments. Soon, the visitors arrive, and June stands with Nick. During this, they quietly flirt and let their hands touch. The two relish the small moments of passion before Fred orders Nick to bring the handmaid into the office. Fred introduces his handmaid to Deputy Ambassador Castillo and her assistant, Mr. Flores. Given many rumors about the handmaids, Castillo wants to learn the truth about them. First, they ask June's real name, but Fred explains that they use patronymics based on the household they serve. Thus, his handmaid is known here as Offred. Castillo then asks if June chose to be a handmaid, and she lies that she did. Serena interrupts to announce that the appetizers are ready. Before leaving, Castillo asks if June is happy. The question lingers for a moment, making the Waterfords nervous. Despite her grievances, June assures the woman that she has found happiness, convincing the ambassador. In the sitting room, the commanders boast about their organic agriculture. Castillo admits that it's not the same in their country, so Commander Warren Putnam suggests sharing their resources with them as well. Castillo then asks how their wives are, and the women say good things. The ambassador then brings up a book that Serena wrote before Gilead, titled A Woman's Place. She wonders if this is the society that Serena pictured before. The wife merely points out that they've reduced their carbon emissions by 78% within 3 years, but the ambassador asserts that this society is where women can no longer read her book or anything else. This fills the room with awkward silence until Serena admits that she didn't imagine this, but asserts that God asks for sacrifices and gives blessings in return. Therefore, Gilead has been blessed. After their visitors have left, Fred regrets inviting the wives earlier, thus allowing Castillo to speak to them. Serena defends that it was the right thing to do, but he worries that their currency will fall unless they seal a trade. Even though his wife tries to help, Fred dismisses her and leaves. In contrast, Fred accepted his wife's comfort when he arrived home after a full day and night of meetings a year ago. To lift his spirits, she invited him to a movie. While waiting for it to start, they discussed their plans to change their nation. Fred even encouraged Serena to write a new book about reproduction being a moral imperative. Suddenly, Fred received word that their proposed attacks to start Gilead had been approved. As they looked at the people around them, Serena believed that they were saving them and doing God's work. At present, Nick goes to June as their commander wants to see her. Before she goes, they kiss. In his office, Fred invites June for a game of Scrabble again, but he just rants about how Castillo looked down on them when her nation is struggling. He then quickly dismisses his handmaid, but instead, June attempts to get on Fred's good side again to gain an advantage. She asks her commander to stay, and this catches Fred off guard. Taking her offer, he orders June to kiss him like she means it. June does as she's told, and this satisfies her commander. Immediately, June brushes her teeth aggressively in her room, disgusted by the act. The next day, the handmaids are invited to a banquet where they're treated as guests for the first time. However, this is only to convince their foreign guests that they're being treated well. Before the event, Serena checks the women and orders Lydia to remove the damaged ones. Lydia argues that the punishments the injured handmaids endured were for the greater good, therefore they should also be honored. However, the wife contends that they don't show off the bruised ones. With that, Lydia is forced to remove a few handmaids, including Janine, whose eye was removed as punishment for her disobedience during their training. Lydia orders them to leave, but Janine insists on attending the party. June comforts her, and Lydia even agrees that it's not fair. Still, she asserts that they must do what's best for everyone. She even promises the dismissed handmaids some desserts for their sacrifices. With that, the wounded handmaids leave while the others attend the banquet. This is the first time they have seen such opulence since Gilead was formed. Before attending the banquet, Serena recalls when she wasn't allowed to speak at the meeting conducted for Gilead's formation, even though she helped Fred along the way. Serena accepted this and just went home. After she left, Fred shared with Warren that his wife was upset. Warren thought it was their fault for allowing women to have academic and professional pursuits, which made them forget their true purpose. Presently, Serena joins the banquet and calls everyone's attention, boasting about Gilead's success in providing a healthy and moral way of life. She highlights how they've also recovered from the world's most pressing problem, the low birth rates. The audience applauds as the handmaids are honored for their contribution to this. Lastly, Serena presents the children of Gilead, who were given life by the handmaids. Kids enter the venue, playing and laughing as the adults watch in amazement. However, the handmaids are frozen in shock, some seeing their own sons and daughters with the strangers who forced them into this lifestyle. Alma quietly asks June what her commander discussed with the ambassador last night. When June thinks it doesn't matter, her friend reveals that Gilead is plotting to trade handmaids to other nations, horrifying her. As Serena watches her presentation succeed, she recalls fixing up her room after Gilead had taken over the country. Her husband prepared for another meeting and commented that she should be coming with him, given her contribution to their takeover. Instead, Serena just planned to make their place a home. Outside, many items from the old days were thrown out, including Serena's copy of her own book. At present, June storms into Nick's apartment after the banquet. She's panicking, thinking that she should have told Castillo what was really happening. Nick assures her that she's not to blame, as she didn't have a choice. Unable to do anything, he just lets her cry on his shoulder. The following day, Castillo and Flores visit the Waterford residence. While waiting for the commander, Castillo gives the handmaid some chocolates for helping her understand their culture. Seeing her chance, June confesses that she lied yesterday. Gilead is brutal, and the handmaids are prisoners who are killed or maimed for being disobedient. She stresses that she didn't choose this life. She was just caught while trying to escape with her family. Hearing this, Castillo apologizes, but the handmaid begs her to do something. To her surprise, the ambassador claims that she can't help as there hasn't been a child born in her hometown in 6 years. Her country is dying, therefore the handmaids are their only chance. Just then, Fred arrives, and Castillo feigns that everything is fine before leaving with him. Instead, Flores secretly offers to help June send her husband a message. June thinks Luke is dead, since she heard gunshots when she was separated from him. However, Flores reveals that Luke is alive. He gives her a notepad to write a message to her husband, and the handmaid tearfully stares at the first true hope of reconnecting with her family.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.